Alrighty. Let's cover something a little less immediately threatening, and just something that's flat out wrong. But before we do that, let's go ahead and do the fan art thing. So, we have from Artsy OT, again, an Oncosaurus. And in fact, if you are following the Necosaurus channel, you've seen this Oncosaurus, because they later animated this, and it became a whole ass meme over on that channel. I even had somebody link me the original Anka thing and said, hey, somebody copied you. Apparently they found mine first and then found the Anka Zone meme afterwards. Somehow. But why does this always pop up? I need to just delete Sweet, Sweet, Sweet and Sweet Dream off of my playlist. Every single time they pop on, I'm reminded that I get copyright struck when those come on my playlist. Anywho, so they said, is an Onkazone Suris sketch? Perhaps I do have the power. They do. There is also, I need to point out, there is another picture that is from Memory Martin that is here. We've only been showing one at a time lately, but it is a work in progress. So I'm going to throw it up real quick, just so that they know, if they are watching, that I'm not skipping. I am waiting until the finished one to get to this one, specifically, because we do have a lot of fan art in here, and I'm trying to get through all of it. But, as always, thank you all for your fan art submissions. If you want for your fan art to be featured on a future video, then please drop it in the fan art section. With that said, let's go ahead and roll the intro. And now that that is done, I am uncertain who this person is. I do not think that they are a hateful person, and I do not want anybody to go after them in any way, shape, or form after this. But there is a thing that they said recently, and, well, it's just like with the VTuber who got mad at people for being, quote, e-thoughts on the internet. We are here again with the exact same thing. There's 55 quote retweets, and this is going to keep on going on and on for a little bit, I think. VTubers are kind of grabbing on here. They said, why the fuck is hashtag VTuber uprising trending? God, I hate those people. It must be nice to sit in front of a computer and just have people give you money. So, I should point out that Delarin is a YouTuber, which means he has the exact same job I do. He is a YouTuber. The difference is that he does not have as many subscribers or followers. There's nothing wrong with that. There are people with far more followers and subscribers than I have. There are people who are better at this than I am who have less. But this does open up a conversation we need to have about, is it, for VTubers in general, I'll talk about myself, and then I'll talk about VTubers a bit afterwards, because I am friends with several of them now. Like, ever since I became a VTuber, somehow I became friends with lots of them. It's weird how that works. Just like when I was doing atheist YouTube all the time, I became friends with a bunch of atheist YouTube content creators. It's funny how that works. But, Darren, this is my olive branch to you. As a VTuber who has been doing this for years. Now, not VTubing specifically. I've been doing that for about 1 year. But do VTubers just sit in front of computers and have people give them money? If you want to boil all nuance out of it, that is just what happens with all streamers of any kind. We sit in front of computers and we do things and people give us money. But I can talk about a couple other jobs where that happens. If you have an office job, you sit in front of a computer and people give you money. Your boss gives you money for sitting in front of a computer. If you have a stay-at-home job, you sit in front of a computer and your boss gives you money. There's plenty of jobs that fit this particular description, where you sit in front of a computer and receive funding in some form or fashion. So let's actually bring a little nuance into here. What goes into my channel specifically and other VTubers' channels? For my channel, for those who've been here for a while, you guys know that I go through quite a bit of mental stress because of the topics that I cover. There are creators who I talk about on the channel who literally would argue for the deaths of people who I love and care about, and in some cases, physically threaten them. I have had people put my face on a literal straw man and fire a gun at it repeatedly in front of their daughter in order to prove some kind of point while calling me a pedophile because I have the anime aesthetic on my channel. Because I've had an anime aesthetic on my channel since well before I became a VTuber, and apparently that is enough to call someone a predator. Now, do you know what kind of mental stress, what kind of strain you go through when stuff like that is happening to you fairly frequently? When you have death threats coming at you in your email and shit like that? To be quite honest, it's fairly stressful. Now, I've grown a thick skin where it's concerned. I've become fairly numb to most of it. So realistically, I have taken my beatings and I've grown my calluses as a result. But there's more to it than that, because I also have to cover articles written by people who think that they're akin to supervillains, who think that we should be dragged back into the Stone Age about how we should treat women. People who argue that I should likely, in a perfect world, be burning in hell for merely existing with the audacity to not believe in the particular flavor of deity that they agree with. And these are just the things that I deal with on my channel, on my side of the internet. This is not me trying to go for sympathy points or anything like that. This is me just pointing out these are the negatives, these are the cons, these are the things I have to handle on a day-to-day. To cover my medical expenses, I had to do what effectively amounted to a 16-day work day because I didn't get to clock out. I got to sleep. But my waking hours were all spent on the camera. My back was in shambles by the time I was done with it, and that was with also using a standing desk, trying to alleviate that. But yes, I just sit in front of a computer and people hand me money. Apparently. But now let's stop talking about me, because if you watch my channel, you already know I go through all this shit. This is not news to anyone here. Let's talk about VTubers in general. Do they just sit in front of computers and people hand them money? Well, let's go ahead and take a look here. I'm going to go ahead and go onto twitch.com. And when I go there, well, twitch.tv, and I'm going to try to not have autoplay screw with me, because the person who programmed autoplay is a piece of human garbage. Of the VTubers who I follow, who are sitting here right now, Pastel Chum, 6 viewers right now. Are they just sitting in front of a computer and people are just handing them money to operate? No. No, they're not. They're trying to play games. They're trying to entertain an audience. They are trying to operate as an entertainer, as a presenter. VTuber Kronos. I'll clock over here. I'm exclusively clicking on VTubers right now. Kronos has a new model. I was unaware of this. But again, they are playing a game. They are entertaining an audience. They are doing something for people. Ellie, another streamer.
Way to get to your heart.
Ellie's in the middle of a collaboration. Now, how do you do collaborations? Well, in order to do a collaboration, you need to have some particular skill in networking. You need to be doing stuff behind the scenes, even when you're not streaming, to plan one of those things. Because getting 4 adults into a room with the same schedule, doing the same thing for any amount of time, if you've ever ran a D&D campaign, ever in your life, you know that this is not a perfect thing. This is not an easy thing. We can go even further. We can click on Miss Lacuna, who's literally a mute streamer.
I meant Jackarel.
She cannot speak biologically.
Sorry.
And yet she still entertains an audience regardless. That's a skill. I can go over to Lunari Valkyrie. She's in the middle of a subathon. She has been streaming for 11 days straight.
Please help us go for long enough to play Pokemon Diamond and Pearl and shit.
She's been going for 11 days straight on a subathon. She is 5 days away from hitting where I have been in my subathon. And at the top of the list that is currently online right now, there's Melly, who is a fellow person sponsored by Artesian Builds and likely is and likewise is entertaining an audience of 145 people, or 132 right now. Have you ever entertained an audience of 142 people and kept them engaged? It's not the easiest thing to do in the world. Hoshikusa, who is also a VTuber, who has the same model rigger and creator that I do, though this model is made by Salem Sky. The model that you are most familiar with is likely the one done by Remixin. And these are just the VTubers who happen to be online right now, and they are all presenting to audiences of 5 to 100 people, trying to keep them entertained, trying to keep them engaged. And that is not the easiest thing to do. And when your chat is blank, when you don't have people talking in your chat, the mental strain that is there to try to pretend that people are there that care about what you're doing is not easy. If you've ever done streaming to an audience of 0, 1, or 2 people, you know how hard it is to keep your spirits up when you know you should be presenting to an audience of people, and yet there is nobody there to watch. It's not easy. It's not fun, and it can take a toll on your mental. Now, there's also the number game. The number game is not fun to deal with either. When you hop into a stream expecting there to be 30 people, and yet you have 15. When you hop into a stream, and your last stream you had 60 people, and now today you have 10, and you just wonder in the back of your head, did you do something wrong? Did you fuck up? And that takes its toll on you. And it's not just a thing that goes through my head. I've had these conversations with multiple other VTubers who are friends of mine behind the scenes, trying to point out that, hey, numbers come in waves. Sometimes you have good streams. Sometimes you have bad streams. But in either case, in any case, I try to be there for them as best as I can, because it's not an easy thing to deal with. It never has been, and it never will be. Imagine walking into an auditorium to present something that is your life's work, and 3 people show up to fill 150 seats. It sucks, and it hurts. And all streamers, not just VTubers, deal with this on a daily basis. Every time they turn that camera on, they are putting themselves and their mental on the line for your entertainment. Now, that is not me trying to put a whole bunch of people on a pedestal. That is me pointing out what is in the job description. How much of your human self you allow to be shown on screen is entirely up to you. Now, for me, while I'm a VTuber, I have no qualms about showing myself on screen. You can see me making the model move and doing everything if you want. I have no qualms about that, because on my channel I have no problem showing literally every bit of myself to you guys, with a handful of exceptions. But those exceptions are mine. Point is, when it comes to VTubing, there's more that goes into it than just that. There's also the investment. Some people, when they VTube, they're making themselves out to be a character on the screen, and the amount of talent that can go into that is something that I simply don't have. I can't play a character. It's just not me. I might be able to do so in a limited capacity, but not while speaking to a bunch of real people. I'm not going to do that. That's not a skill that I have, nor is it one I care to hone. Then there are VTubers who want to go a step beyond. You see, you can do VTubing completely for free with almost no skills. If you want to use VC Face and you want to use the new Vroid Studio, you can make a very competent looking model and you can run it with not that much skill involved in the rigging process. But you could go a few steps beyond. Let's say you're an artist who wants to make your own custom model. Or let's say that you plan to take your hard-earned money and entrust that to an artist to deliver you a model that you can use. I know VTubers who have spent thousands of dollars on their assets, on their character models, on everything, and guess what? I want you to consider what happens to your mental when you spend thousands of dollars on something and it makes almost no impact on the viewers, when it makes almost no change in your numbers, as if the investment was worthless. Again, I don't want to keep on talking about the negatives and the cons that people have to go through when they are streaming all the time. But these are things to consider. When you want to put up an ignorant take, like, VTuber uprising is trending, I hate those people because they just sit in front of a computer and people give them money, when you yourself are a YouTuber, and were you a successful YouTuber, you would be sitting in front of a computer and people would be giving you money. Much like if you were a software engineer, you would be sitting in front of a computer and people would be giving you money. Because that's part of the job description. While there are plenty of people who are perfectly fine just responding to this particular tweet in retweet form or in comment form, I figured I'd go ahead and go a little bit further. Because this is one of those topics that is very close to me and my heart, because streaming is my full-time job. And while content creation in and of itself was what I wanted to do as my full-time job, I'm perfectly fine with streaming being that. It is more comfortable than I thought it would be, and I am happy that I am here. But it doesn't come without its tolls. But go ahead. Pretend that there are no cons, and pretend that you can hate an entire group of people merely because they sit at a computer and people give them money. This is like complaining that you had to pay an artist for something when they're doing what they enjoy. That you had to pay to sit down at a comedy concert when a comic is just telling jokes, something your dad could do. Though, admittedly, your dad's jokes suck. That said, this is where I throw it back to you. This is more a rant than anything, but it's my rant, so, you know. Deal? Anyways, if you enjoyed this content in any way, shape, or form, let me know in the comment section below. If you want to support me, you know how to do that. There's plenty of ways to do so in the comment section below. Go ahead. VTuber uprising is apparently trending. And somebody hates me because people are people are throwing money at me in front of a computer. I find it very funny that during the entire course of this rant, not one person gifted a sub. That's very ironic. Anyways, as always, everyone, instant video tagline here. Hey, thank you so much for watching this video. It really means a lot to me. If you want access to behind-the-scenes content for the channel, please consider checking out my Patreon. I do weekly vlogs over there, where I give real-life updates to what's going on behind the scenes on the channel, stuff that you don't really get over here, and even on Twitch. Patreon also helps the channel's stability a whole lot. Without Patreon, I wouldn't be able to do this at all. Especially with the kind of content that I do, neither YouTube nor Twitch are the most stable sources of income. If you are a $20 and up patron, then you will be featured on the ending slides as shown in the beginning of the end credits. If you want to catch the streams where all this content comes from, then consider heading over to Twitch and following. And if you want to continue watching over here on YouTube, maybe consider clicking one of the end screen videos. And once again, I want to thank you so much for spending your time with me over on my channel. I wouldn't be able to do literally anything that I'm doing over here on YouTube without each and every one of you. So, thank you.